Tendai Mwari, giving thanks and praises to Brian Akusika, the creator of the universe, for the spirits of Midland Makudo, our great ancestors from Bidda Konomai Africa, to the creator of Africa, be the glory. We say BP Vahadi, African liberation. We also say Bon Combat, keep up the good and righteous fight. Greetings, Galaxy family. You're tuned in to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. It's a joy to be in Africa, and it is indeed a joy to be right here on Galaxy Radio, celebrating 42 years into eternity. Tendai Mwari. Hosting tonight's program with Brother Kweko, myself, Brother Olatunji. It's Gujugulia Day, Babylon Monday, the 16th of March, so called, and it is 7 minutes past the hour of 7 p.m. So keep it locked right here on the Big G, GalaxyAfiwi.net. Tonight, sisters and brothers, on Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on the only the brainwashing station. What does the Rael-Iran war mean for Africa and Africans? Part 2. Yes, there's so much to do with sisters and brothers. Didn't get to do with all of it. And I think last show, we were deprived of some of brother leaders' input due to some technical issues. And if you missed that show, sisters and brothers, you can still go to our Mixcloud page and check it out right now. Don't worry. Moving on, sisters and brothers, we're going to go now into our synopsis. I'll hand over to Brother Kweko. Tell my Brother Kweko.
Tell my brother. Mm-hmm. The USA is claiming a dominant victory in its war on Iran, while at the same time begging and now threatening NATO and other allies for help clearing the crucial Strait of Hormuz currently under Iranian control. Observers believe that having secured the Strait of Hormuz, the Houthis, aligned with Iran, have now set their sights on el-Mandeb Strait in the Horn of Africa, creating a double choke point. Such a move would doubly infuriate Israel amid suggestions that its recent recognition of Somaliland was an opening salvo in a bid to control the vital trade route. Meanwhile, rumors abound about the demise of the leader of the other leg of US-Rael axis, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, after two videos, both regarded as AI-generated, have failed to convince otherwise. The situation caused UK politician George Galloway to quip, quote, "If he is dead, then who exactly runs America now?" Unquote. Further afield, the war is also said to be having an impact on the conflict in Sudan. The United Arab Emirates are massive supporters of the brutal Rapid Support Force, but reporting indicates that Iran's strikes inside UAE fuel rapid collapse of the genocidal RSF militia in Sudan. Thus, with such a wide range of parties preoccupied with events in the Arabian Gulf, there may be space for respite for Africa, even the Caribbean, that ironically may see a tourist bump. However, so far this has been expressed largely in attempts to placate, or at least not antagonize, US-Rael. Whether this can actually be capitalized on by the administrations in both regions into something meaningful remains to be seen. So tonight, we ask the question, what does US-Rael-Iran war mean for Africa and Africans? Part 2. 1. Have US-Rael already won the war? What is the significance of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait? 3. How do we assess the African diplomatic responses to the war? 4. Will the Caribbean be an unintended beneficiary? Our special guest is none other than Brother Leader Mandaka. But we also have with us the return of Brother Tafadzwa Shakara Mandaka, the son of Brother Leader Mandaka. Tenai Mwari.
Then I'm right, giving thanks and praises for that, Brother Kweku. Let's move on now. I will say, sisters and brothers, again, this is part 2. If you missed part 1, you can catch it on our Mixcloud page. Just go to mixcloud.com and type in Alkebu-Lan. But I will say that unfortunately, last show though, we were robbed by a lot of the insights from Brother Leader Bandaka due to technical issues. So, Brother Leader, I want to go straight to you. Well, the first thing, Brother Leader, is it's over. America's won the war, according to Trump and his regime. It's done.
Yeah, well, I think everybody knows now. Is there anybody on the planet that really takes Trump seriously?
I do, Brother Leader. I take him very seriously.
Well, funny enough,
Go ahead.
I was looking at some polling, and apparently in America, when the war started, there was about 15% of Republicans in favor of the war. Since then, it's risen to 85%.
What was it before? 15?
About 15, 1-5.
And it's gone up.
Well, because, Trump ran on this no more wars, no forever wars, no, America first platform.
Yeah.
So that's what he ran on. And so that's what his base was saying. We're not interested in any of these wars. But since then, obviously, the fact is, we know Trump lies, and Trump is obviously prosecuting the war, and the base has just gone with him.
Wow.
But
Well, if 85% of Republicans are backing Donald Trump, that's 85% of people who are as deluded as Donald Trump.
absolutely.
But when saying that, however, and we know that this man is a rabid narcissist, he's a racist of the worst kind. He's just a horrible, despicable human being by any standard. Sorry?
Don't hold back, bro. say what you think.
Well, you're not impressed at all.
I'm doing my best.
See, it's not come to Shamira then, Brother Leader, is what you're saying, in other words.
No, for so many reasons, it's not admissible. But all that said, that this is not just about Trump. It's not just about Netanyahu either, and neither is it even just about Israel and the United States of America. It is about a force that is known as Zionism. It is about global Zionism. And to say global Zionism is to say the people who control the banking system, who are at the top of the economic pyramid, if you will. They are at the apex of the global economic pyramid. Because they control the finances of the world, they control the economy of the planet. And it seems clearer and clearer that that Israel is but a project of Zionism, that the United States and its government is a project of Zionism. And so Trump and Netanyahu are but the puppets, the figureheads, horrible and despicable and deplorable as they are as human beings, and in their own right, we can do an assessment of them as human, if they are indeed human beings. They are awful and deplorable, poor excuses for human beingness. But let's be clear that they are not the primary issue. They are well suited and well disposed to carry out the vicious, evil, fiendish task that they are carrying out. Yes, but they are not the primary issue here. It's a much bigger force, a global cabal that we need to understand. Tendai
Moari. Interesting, but given we have documents like the Balfour Declaration, so is Zionism not a project of Britain?
I understand the question. When you say Zionism not a product of Britain, certainly that's one way of seeing it. But then if we look at the Balfour Declaration, it was the then British Minister of, what do you call it? Foreign Minister, who was writing to a character by the name of Walter Rothschild. You go back to the Balfour Declaration, which I don't have in front of me presently, but it starts off, "Dear Mr. Rothschild." Who is this Walter Rothschild? I think his full name is Walter Lionel Rothschild, or Walter Rothschild. Many of our listeners will recognize the name as being a member of a very famous family who are known to be one of the controllers of, or if not the controller of, the global banking system. Yeah. Now, he was one of the leaders, if not the leader, of the Jewish community of Britain at the time. He was one of the leading members of the British Zionist Federation, I think it was called, the British Zionist Federation, which is part of a global organization called hold on, let me see if I get this right. The Organization of Zionism, or the Global Organization of Zionism. I'll get the facts right, in the name right in a moment. But suffice to say that Zionism is a well-organized, well-resourced global force that has its tentacles all over the world. So why was the foreign minister of Britain writing to Walter Rothschild to say, we agree and we are supporting the desire to build a Jewish state or a Jewish nation in the land of Palestine, because Britain was carrying out the instructions or the will of the Zionist movement at the time? Because this was in the middle of World War I. Britain needed support. Britain was in the throes of war, where they were getting some licks. They needed American intervention, and the Rothschild and the Zionist movement were in control of the American machinery that the British needed. And so the British had to succumb to the will of the Zionist movement in order for the Americans, in order for America to be unleashed in the war to support the Allied forces. Yeah? So it probably is more accurate to say that Britain is an agency of the global Zionist movement.
Even with the royal family?
Even with the so-called royal family. Even with the so-called royal family.
Okay.
Because that is how the Rothschild were able to build the banking system and establish central banks, starting in Europe, all over Europe, by controlling and manipulating governments and even so-called royal families throughout Europe.
Mm-hmm. So the short answer then, in your words, is America aren't winning this war, but obviously this is, in a sense, you could say this is really a battle for the larger war of Zionism over, well, who is Zionism waging war on, brother leader, specifically?
Anything that resists the Zionist project is what Zionism is waging war against, and that can be known as globalization, the New World Order, and various other names. It is a scheme to take control of the entire world, of the entire planet, and run it according to their own will. This is what we're dealing with here. And of course, you have forces in the world, political forces in the world that are resistant to this. China is one of them. Yeah. Russia is part of is an enclave in a sense, but Russia has its own perspective of how it wants to be represented in this scheme, and so Russia has some resistance. Yeah, I think we just have to be very, very careful as African people, because we get ourselves caught up in with these forces, and their interest is not necessarily congruent with ours. Yeah.
But clearly, it's very powerful. See, in terms of this current theatre of war, we're hearing a lot of contradictory stuff. Like we affirmed in a previous show, there's nothing really that Trump is doing which is inconsistent with what America has done for the last decades.
Absolutely. Donald Trump is not doing anything different.
He just represents it very differently.
well, exactly, and I think it just suits them to have a Trump at this time, so that everyone can say, well, then, oh, it's this crazy man, this crazy individual, that's just doing silly, stupid things, and focus on Trump and his idiosyncrasies, and fail to do a systems analysis. But we must maintain our focus on the system. That is not to say that we don't look at Trump, but we put Trump in perspective as one individual, an agent with an individual agent within the system. And even big, bad, mighty United States of America is an agency within the global system. The people of America believe that they own their country. They do not own their country. Yeah. In fact, there's a European by the name of Jeffrey Sachs, who is a Jew himself, but an anti-Zionist Jew, who states very clearly that that America is controlled by the Jews. That America is controlled by the Jews, and is controlled, in fact, I think he probably says is controlled by the Zionists. Yeah. And that is absolutely true. They have powerful organizations like AIPAC. Yeah. The American Israel Public
Affairs Committee. Right. Which is one of the most powerful institutions in the union, if not the most powerful institution in fact, anyone who wants to be president of America has to be cleared by AIPAC. They have to go and speak to AIPAC and have to be cleared by AIPAC to become president of the United States of America. Yeah. They control the government system in the United States of America. And they are well funded. They are a Zionist institution, and they are well funded, and they are well endowed to carry out the Zionist project. So we have to stay focused on systems analysis and not get caught up in the paralysis of analysis. And this notion that from Trump that America is winning the wars is paralysis of analysis. They've bombed Iran, and Iran has responded by bombing not just Israel, but bombing other countries within the Gulf region who are friendly to the United States of America, who have military bases
there, American military bases, British military bases, and they sent firm warning signs by bombing a number of these countries. And all of them now have turned to America, and they're now pressuring America to ease back and to ease up. Yeah, America is looking for a way out. If we really are studying this thing, you can see that America is looking for a way out, because Israel, according to reports from observers, expert observers, I try to avail myself of. Israel.
So not the BBC then.
Certainly not the BBC, but I do listen to the BBC because I need to understand the gaslighting that's taking place. We need to also study. We have to do research, and we have to know how the people are gaslighted, how the people are misled, bamboozled, flummoxed by the by the propaganda of the global white supremacist media. And they're very good at what they do. But Iran, and I've been hearing this for years, Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not Libya. Iran is not even Syria, and Syria gave them a good, hefty fight. Iran is a different kettle of fish, and we're seeing evidence of that now. That you can take out its supreme leader, as he was known as, their supreme leader, and 40-something government officials, and you claim that you've taken out a second layer. And not only are they able to continue to function within or maintain a system of governance, they are able to stand up militarily to the greatest so-called military power in the world and the greatest military presence on its behalf in the so-called Middle East. And that's saying a lot. We're also hearing from, not from the BBC and CNN and LBC, but we're hearing from some of these other more critical sources that, and this was inferred in our spec. We're hearing that Netanyahu might even be dead, or at least injured. We're hearing that one of his brothers was killed, that his house was also bombed. It seems clear to these expert observers that Iran's reaction to being bombed by America and Israel has shocked America and Israel. That Israel is becoming exhausted. Its capacity to intercept the missiles that are coming from the ballistic missiles coming out of Iran is becoming weaker and weaker, because Iran unleashed some of its weaker missiles in the earlier part of its campaign in order to exhaust Israel of its capacity to intercept. And with Israel now being depleted, its defense mechanism now being depleted, Iran is now unleashing some of its stronger weapons on Israel and doing tremendous damage to various cities within Israel. But that is not being reported in the mainstream.
Indeed. I mean, it's ironic now because some reports that are getting through are saying that Israel is being Gazaed. But I'm thinking, but you never admitted anything going on untoward in Gaza. But now you use it as a reference to look at destruction in Israel. And I have a quick thing about the Netanyahu thing as well. I remember reading somewhere, someone was saying that his son, who apparently lives in Florida, in America, he's a person who will tend to send like social media posts 30 or 40 a day. Apparently he's done nothing posted nothing in the last 5 days. So people are looking at that thinking, wonder what that's about as well. So there's also...
Well, one thing is reportedly the case, or appears to be the case according to reports, and makes sense, is that Iran has its cells all over the world. Yeah, and are able to evoke reactions in various strategic parts of the world. Yeah, so that's something else to look out for.
But there are a lot of strange paradoxes as well, Brother Leader, because again we've got the situation where Iran has exerted control over the Strait of Hormuz, and America is begging its allies, quote unquote, to come in. One irony there is, one of the things they need is minesweepers. America had minesweepers there last year, and they sent them away for decommissioning. But it's interesting that the allies, quote unquote, are generally saying no. Britain said no. France said no. Germany said no. Italy said no.
Germany.
Yeah, all of them saying no. But what's interesting, although they're saying no, they're still ideologically aligned to America, to, let me say, the Israel position of Iran regime must go, Iran must not get nuclear weapons, Iran this, Iran that. And I think one thing you have to bear in mind, you mentioned it a few moments ago, you mentioned Libya. Libya prostrated itself before the European world and decommissioned its nuclear program.
Well, absolutely.
And
and Gaddafi start kissing up
Tony Blair
and Tony Blair. And funding their institutions and all sorts. Yeah, he was compromised. And
you saw it Gaslight the Walk. I listened to a clip earlier of this character. What's his name? I think it's Jacob Rees-Mogg was speaking about the situation, and he makes the comparison with North Korea. They say North Korea is safe because they've got nuclear weapons, and he said and he went on to say that's why we have to
got China. They've got China on their borders as well.
Yeah, and he went on to say that's why we have to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. They're making it clear that, but the fact is that in terms of behavior, the people who shouldn't have nuclear weapons are the ones who have them, by and large, because they're the ones who are the most politically unstable in terms of their behavior and their posture around the world. So, in that regard,
starting with America,
well, they're the only country to have actually activated what we call a nuclear bomb ever, and they did it twice.
It's always good to remind ourselves of Martin Luther King's characterization of America as the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, on the 4th day of the 4th month in the year 1967, a year to the day before he was assassinated, made that speech against the war in Vietnam, where he lambasted the United States of America and characterized them as the greatest purveyor of violence. Think about it. On the planet. And that's exactly what they are. That every war that we see taking place on the planet today, America is involved in some way, shape, or form. Be it Ukraine, you look at what's happening in Gaza, all over the African continent, all them wars all over the African continent. Yeah, but as I said before, America is an agency of global Zionism. Let us not forget that. We have to put that in context. And we have to look at the role that Zionism has played historically on the African continent. Zionism was propping up. Zionism was the foundation upon which apartheid maintained and manifested itself in South Africa. And Israel was one of apartheid South Africa's closest friend. We must never forget these things.
Indeed. Right. So one of the things we did mention kind of in passing in the previous show was the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. And I think both yourself and Brother Shakra really recognize its importance and would then really get a chance really to go into it. So do you want to speak to the significance of that, especially now that there's suggestions that that may be the next target to be come under the control of what I suppose what we would call Iranian influence? What's the significance of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, Brother Leader?
Yeah, Tendai Moari. Well, I think the main significance of Bab el-Mandeb is that it's one of the major trading routes, maritime trading routes by sea, which links the Red Sea to something called the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean. Now, that route, about 12% of global oil trade goes through that route. And about 15% of all trade goes through that route. Now, if we see the effect or the damage that the Strait of Hormuz, the closing of the Strait of Hormuz is having. Now, I drive, so I can see how it's affecting drivers straight away. Before the bombing, I was paying £1.38 per litre for my diesel. It's now, the last time was £1.55, and it's constantly going up.
Boy.
So that's 16 pence within a few weeks, a couple of 2 to 3 weeks. 16 pence per litre. That's significant. Yeah. And once the price of oil goes up, petrol goes up, it affects the price of energy.
Yeah.
Once the price of energy goes up, you're talking about electricity, you're talking about gas. Transport is going to go up. And once transport goes up, it's going to affect production of all food, clothes, you name it. It's going to affect the production of goods and services. And so inevitably, you're going to have inflation. Now, we already see that effect from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The Bab el-Mandeb, can you imagine if that strait is also closed? As I said, 12% of global oil trade goes through that route. So it's going to exacerbate the global impact and might even exacerbate it even more than the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Because if world trade cannot access the Bab el-Mandeb, the trade has to go all around the African continent, down to South Africa. Trade from Europe to Asia, I'm referring to, has to move from Europe all the way down the west coast of Africa, down to the south of Africa, come around to the east to access Asia, and vice versa. That's thousands of miles that will be added onto the journey. So that is going to affect the world economy. So African people, wherever we are going to be adversely affected. We're going to be detrimentally affected by this. The African continent would be devastated economically. Yeah? So that is the importance. And also, I mean, the Houthis are threatening, they're the ones who are threatening to close the Bab el-Mandeb.
Yeah.
Now, the Houthis are in Yemen. and they're mainly in the south of Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
So they're right on the coast
Mm-hmm.
of the Bab el-Mandeb. They are very much in a position geographically. They have ease of access
Mm-hmm.
to the Bab el-Mandeb. This obviously could create a war situation
Mm-hmm.
that could easily spill over onto the Horn of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's very, very worrying.
Mm-hmm.
This is very, very worrying. And the other thing that we need to think about is when we talk about inflation and if the Bab el-Mandeb is closed, the impact that would have on the global economy would spike not just normal inflation, but hyperinflation.
Mm-hmm.
That is a likelihood. And if you consider that African people in any part of the world you find us, we are at the bottom of the economic strata. We are the ones who are going to suffer more than anybody else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said before, this would devastate the African continent. One of the problems we have on the African continent is that our economies are very, very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And our economies are fragile because we have been pigeonholed. The entire 13 million square miles of the richest real estate on the planet that has everything that we need and more to be self-sufficient. Africa doesn't even have to trade outside of the continent. We can just stay in the continent, right? And generate wealth that would just lift our people onto high standards of living. Yeah. But our economies are very, very weak and they're very, very fragile because our economies on the African continent are bound up in a global economy that has consigned Africa to being a consumer continent. Yeah. Rather than a producer continent. And so we rely heavily on imports rather than the extraction of our raw materials and adding value to our raw materials by manufacturing our own goods and services. Yeah. So if we have this oil crisis that has already started, is already impacting the African continent. I was reading an article the other day that was explaining some of the impact that it was already having on the African continent. And it can only get, if the Bab el-Mandeb is closed, it would at least double the problem, right? It would mean that African currencies would go into hyperinflation. Inflation weakens currencies, and when currencies are weakened, their global capacity becomes less and less significant. Imports become much more expensive for that country. Yeah, it undermines export from the country, so it could create an existential crisis right across the African continent. This is very, very serious. We need to understand that what is going on is potentially very, very, millions of Africans will die. Millions of Africans will die. And we already have crisis we already have flashpoints of crises all over the African continent. It would even get worse. 10 times more.
Okay, but then there is, I suppose, some differing perspective as well, because there is a perspective, and I think Iran has said this, that technically the Strait of Hormuz isn't closed. It's just closed to certain people, primarily America and its allies. And if you kind of like...
well, Iran is still using it.
Yeah.
For a start.
No, but also, if you negotiate with them directly,
yes.
So theoretically, it could be similar policies could apply to Strait of Bab el-Mandeb as well. I think the issue is we have, I suppose, from a diplomatic or geopolitical perspective, is as it stands currently, I think the posture for most of the African states has been very much to avoid antagonizing Israel, the USA-Israel axis.
Yeah.
And the exception...
But also their economies are tied up with the economies of these nations.
Yeah.
You see. And so the closure of the Bab el-Mandeb would be an attack on European economy, the American economy, the Israeli economy, and that would have a ripple effect on the African continent. Yeah.
So in some respects, though, these overtures to Euro-America are pretty pointless then, because it won't save them. They can't pledge their allegiance or support for the Houthis or Iran, and it won't help them in any way. It's basically what you're saying then.
Well, in effect, yes. In effect.
Okay.
Yes. You know, geopolitically and economically, we are too wrapped up with these European countries. That is the problem that we have, right? It is the reason why we are not a manufacturing continent. We're not an industrialized continent. We go back to the vision of the Osage for Kwame Nkrumah, who was inspired by the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who was calling for the industrialization of the African continent from the 19-teens into the 1920s, and sent delegates to Liberia in 1924 with £50,000 worth of industrial and agricultural equipment for the purpose of laying the foundation for industrializing the African continent, starting with Liberia, and also also improving agriculture. Yeah. So that was going to be the focus. From then, Papa Garvey has been pushing for the industrialization of the African continent. The Osage came in the 1950s and 1960s. He tried to move that program forward. That was a very powerful moment for Africa and its people around the world. And if that project was allowed, that vision was allowed to be fulfilled, the world today would not be talking about China and would not be urinating on themselves. Europe would not be urinating on themselves, and America would not be urinating on itself out of fear of China's potential. It would be Africa. It would be Africa that they would be nervous about. Right? Instead, we're in the state that we're in today. We're in a state of vulnerability that we're in today on the African continent, with these silly little so-called nation states.
Yeah. Legacy of the Berlin Conference.
Absolutely. Which we still can't reverse. Why are we holding on to this colonial legacy? I will never know. And that's what makes us so prone to being exploited.
Wow.
These little nation states are not viable. And we can't see it.
Well, nation states and democracy. And it's ironic as well, because it took, for example, a private citizen, so-called, like Aliko Dangote, to bring oil refinery onto the African continent in a significant way. None of the governments seemed up for the task, even oil producing ones, and he used his money to do that, and that significantly affected Africa's capacity to refine its own oil, but it's still quite a way away from where it needs to be. And again, but the reality is that you mentioned the Osage, and obviously he broke it down in 1965 with neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
He kind of said, this is how this thing is going to go. And exactly how it went and how it is. We've got these nation states, we've got these puppets, and even the idea of democracy is used as a tool, which I think he clearly realized in his time as president of Ghana that this democracy thing doesn't work, and it's a tool of infiltration and destabilization. And it's been used over and over and over again. And we find that in the last 40 years, probably the most promising models that we've had were not democratic in that sense. And we're speaking about Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso and the People's Revolutionary Government in Grenada. What they did, those two examples in 4 years, by really forgetting the elections and rallying the people, meeting the people where they're at, and really gauging the will of the people and engaging them in a process of nation building collectively, really provided a model of what could be done with the right type of leadership. But that's a problem, because I think, as we've said, and we often make reference to the so-called Sahel states, but the reality is that the will of the people is probably the same all over the continent. The issue is whether the quote-unquote leadership responds to that will in any meaningful way. And certainly in the Sahel states, they've at least recognized that whatever issues we have with it, they've recognized it to a degree, to a greater or lesser degree, and have moved along that line. But we look at places like Kenya or elsewhere, where we see that same fervor amongst the people. But certainly the leadership there is wholly uninclined to do anything along those lines. And that's probably the issue that we have. Because what would probably compel and move the program in the Sahel forward would be similar processes happening elsewhere in the continent. And after about 3 or 4 years or so, it doesn't like it's happening anywhere else.
Well, this is it, Brother Olatunji. And you know, I don't know what it will take for us as a people. You know, I think on the positive side, we see more and more signs of consciousness being raised amongst the people. You see signs, you hear accounts that amount to consciousness raising amongst our young people, and the young people demanding a transformation in the kind of geopolitics that we have on the African continent, and the kind of economics that we have on the African continent that is not conducive to our best interest. Africa needs to unite as one union super state, where all of its resources are primarily channeled towards transforming Africa into the number one superpower on the planet, which was the vision of the Osachifo, inspired by the vision of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. And we lose that vision to our peril. Nothing else will do for Africa and Africans. Nothing else is going to save Africa and Africans.
Tendai, I hear you. Just quickly, it occurs to me, though, that I suppose what maybe had made the Sahel, or what we call the Ouagadougou region, different is, I suppose, some of the peculiar elements that were happening there, happening less so in other parts of the continent. One of those being the imposition of France and their peculiar style of neocolonialism, which is very much hands-on, unlike other parts of the continent, particularly politically and economically. So that created a flashpoint. There's also the factor of the so-called, what are they called now? Not militia, jihadis. Again, funded again, by external forces, armed by external forces, some of it legacy of the Libya invasion as well. So all that confluence of stuff perhaps created an environment there. But we haven't seen anywhere else on the continent to maybe move it to that level. So there has to be maybe some different levers that are going to get the people to really challenge the governments there, I guess. But on that note, let us welcome to Africa Speaks, as he's now joined us, and Brother Shakarat, Brother Shakarat Bandaka. Welcome, Shakarat, to Africa Speaks. Great to have you with us.
Tenamwari.
Tenamwari,
Brother Kutafazo, Brother Shakarat.
Tenamwari. Either one is blessed. Tenamwari, Brother Leader.
It better be, son. Otherwise, I owe you an apology, right?
Indeed. You know?
Right.
So we give thanks for all names given and inspired. But yeah, greetings to them to Galaxy family, Uncle Tunji, Uncle Kweku, Reverend Leader. Appreciative of the shows thus far, and looking forward to contribute to them.
Right. Tenamwari to further Shakara. I'm going to go way off script now. I think just out of respect, and just give you an opportunity just to share your thoughts on the life and legacy of our brother DJ Keithley and what he meant to you. Again, from my memories, obviously, from your school days, very, very influential part of your formative years. So you want to share anything about, just for listeners who may not know about DJ Keithley?
No, extremely, a stalwart of community radio, in the African community, particularly in East and North London, which is what Station FM catered for. I was just reasoning with my Uncle Bubba about this, and he said, yeah, you know, basically because they're contemporaries as DJs, and he and I know DJ Keatley from the morning show, DJ Keatley in the morning time. That was the But before that, he used to do the graveyard shift apparently on station. And so, you know, he built up his audience and his skills as a host on the graveyard shift. So by the time I inherited all of that work as far as his morning show, he was a master of engaging his audience, and very conscious of the fact that children were listening to him.
Yes, I was going to say, especially young.
Yeah, you know, he had a way of keeping that the whole entire family and catering for the whole entire family in his morning show. And a couple times I recall, because it was my mother. I have to give thanks to my mother, because it was my mother that really gave us the DJ Keatley brainwashing, so to speak. And a couple times we actually called in to his show. Okay. And there's a tape of there are tapes of this somewhere about the place. Like, I'm sure mommy recorded it. But I was able, me and my brother won some vinyl. Mm-hmm. And among the vinyl was Marcia Griffith's I Shall Sing, 12-inch, Freddie McGregor Big Ship. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, so I got and a few others. Like, we got 12 inches that were given to us by by DJ Keatley. You know, I still remember the envelope, that it came in, them vinyl there. And his slogan in the morning was "Beat those breakfast bowls."
I was just gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Seriously,
beat those breakfast. Yeah, man. You know, so
it takes so long to get to the serious.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, but as children, that's, you know, those are the things that we were engaged in. Like, even today, I'm learning, you know, how involved in the community he was and how he tried to support different community initiatives. And Uncle Bubba was sharing me as well that he hasn't been well for a while. So we understand that. But just in terms of the power and the strength of what they call pirate radio, this man is a legend, a stalwart, a pioneer. And so we have a lot to give thanks to DJ Keatley for setting a standard and for pushing the power of community radio, you know. So give thanks and praise for that, Brother Shakara.
Stupid.
I mean, I know we're dealing with a very serious subject. We felt it's appropriate really to give some time for someone who meant so much to so many in terms of
Yes,
Kifi.
sir.
So give thanks for that, because I think it's very important we did that.
Oh,
Before we go on though, let's just see if there's any messages coming, Brother Kweku. And we've kind of moved quite a lot into the reason, Brother Shakara. So what we've landed on really is the main part of the issue, the effect on African Africans of this current conflict. Messages, but first let's go to Brother Kweku for the messages.
Yeah. The first one is from Thomas Cooper. And he says here, most members of Galaxy and Mandaka are anti-Jewish, anti-Bible, anti-Zionist. But Jewish state will always exist. Iran says it wants to wipe out Israel off the map. Your views are biased and one-sided. That is Thomas.
I'm wondering where the Zionist state was in 1947.
And
Nakba.
Kwame Obwaje.
Nakba. Is that what you're alluding to, Brother Olatunji?
I'm saying, but there was there. He said it's always been a Jewish state, but was there one before 1940? Was there one in 1947?
I think we're dealing with an adherent of Abrahamicism. So I think we need not give a lot of that too much time. I think this individual is an adherent to the line of Abraham, and is therefore pledging his allegiance to all political institutions that claim that line, as long as they're Bakra. So yeah, I would move on from all of that. It's a distraction.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, except to say that the point that Brother Olatunji, I thought he was making another point, but the point Brother Olatunji is making is an important point.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that, prior to 1948, May 1948, May the 14th, 1948 to be exact, there was no Israel state.
No, but Brother Leader, you're forgetting though that Jehovah promised the land to the seed of Abraham. So, you're forgetting the thing, Riley. That you have to understand.
But the caller didn't say that. The caller said there'll always be an Israel.
But I thought rather like, but I thought rather like Asgard in Marvel Comics. I thought Israel was a people, not a land.
That's true. That is also true, you know. Depending on who you speak to and what political interest they're serving. So yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Chakara, coming after you.
No, I was going to say there are a few things more pitiful in our current environment than an African who is a Zionist allegiant. It's a pitiful state of existence. You know what I'm saying? And there are a few more dunce individuals that I've encountered on the planet than Africans who are allied with Israel. It's such a ridiculous scenario. So yeah, I try not to overindulge them kind of character. But continue your point, Robert.
Yeah, tell them Mark. Unless we know for a fact that this individual is an African, we should not assume that he actually,
good point,
or she actually is.
Good point.
The second message from Kwame Obwaje. Let's go on to some. Right, Tenemari, kings and queens. America is so desperate so that she can claim herself to be the number one superpower. America is trying to control Africa, competing against Russia and China. Our late great Pan-African scholar, Baba John Henry Clark, warned us that we have no friends. Trump is a fraud, a pedophile, and a racist. Plus, we know Britain pecks for America when America throws her chicken seeds, and Britain pecks them. Like I said last strong, the wars between the West and the East aren't my business unless it involves African people. We know that our people insanely go to Israel when they know full well that they are going to a country that's racist and support apartheid. My condolences go out to Sister Kinaya and her family. Tenamwari King Kwame Obwaje. Give thanks for that, bro.
Donna Marie, give thanks for that. Let's go give thanks for that, brother. Quickly, let's go back now to brother Shakara, who's just joined us. So
sorry, brother Latunji, sorry about this. I'll be very brief with the point. Let us remind ourselves that there are many Jews who are anti-Zionism.
Yes,
anti-Zionism and anti-Israel, and there are which includes Orthodox Jews. Who believe that it's a misinterpretation of the scripture.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make that joke that point in.
And Zion is to come. That's the thing.
Sorry.
And it is to come. It's not as what they're trying to say is here. It is to come.
That's true. That's true.
I don't want to label this too much, but the whole thing is messed up because even the non-Jewish Zionists, the so-called Christian nationalists, their objective is to see the Jews destroyed anyway.
Well, exactly. And it could be argued in that context that Zionism was an anti-Semitic project.
Yeah. And there are those who do argue that.
Well, that's the point. That's the point I'm making. That Zionism itself, which this person, this texter, would defend, there is an argument, a valid argument, that Zionism itself was anti-Semitic, and that the point that Brother Olatunji is making is that Christian Zionists were, many of them were, or the majority of them were anti-Semitic, and that's why they supported Zionism to get the Jews out of Europe.
Even on another level, actually, it's anti-Semitic because what you have in Zionism is a group of Europeans killing Arabs who are Semitic.
Right.
So so it's good.
That's how convoluted the whole thing is.
And killing dark-skinned Jews.
So
Israel.
Absolutely. Some serious point.
It's a just situation. But anyway, Brother Shakara. So what we are basically on is looking at how the current kind of political machinations that are affecting the African continent. We've mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. We've mentioned the impact. And I suppose the issue is because Africa is so linked in a subservient way into global economies, almost like there's nowhere really to turn, because we were saying that a lot of the responses from African governments has been very muted and very in a way to avoid criticizing America, although the war is illegal, although they started it. So, but what else can they do anyway? Because at the end of the day, they're so linked into the economic structures.
But they weren't. But they were critical of Israel when it was bombing Gaza. So why now?
No, some of them were.
The majority, wasn't it?
I don't know. No,
okay.
I think what complicates this one. Go ahead. What complicates this one is the fact that a lot of the countries in the Gulf States are getting licked as well. I gather that Abiy Ahmed from Ethiopia was recently in Dubai, or one of the states there as well. So
the Horn in general.
So there's this thing where if it's simply actually our Palestinian brothers, our Muslim brothers, quote unquote, this is quite clear. But the fact is, this situation has been made more complex by the fact that the Gulf states are being licked, but they're being licked because American bases are there. They're not licking the Gulf states. They're licking the American bases.
Okay. The first things first. One of the contemplations that I've had in the last 24, 48 hours is the extent to which this conflict, when you consider the ways that it impacts Africa and African people, reveals how relatively weak we are on the level of nationhood on the world stage, and how unready we are to act in our own interest from a self-determining perspective in almost any way, shape, and form when events like these happen on the world stage. And an example of this is what we were just discussing a minute ago, Bab el-Mandeb.
Yeah.
Strait, yeah. That this is a passage that is defined by a body of water on one side being what people would consider to be the Arab world, and on the other, the Horn of Africa and East Africa. Yes. And when you look at the extent to which the African economies, particularly in East Africa, are affected by the flow of traffic through that strait. And just to add something to what Brother Leader was saying in terms of the fact that our economies have been reduced to consumer economies for Western economies. To add to that, we've also been reduced to extractive bases. Yes, that they come and extract resources from. Yeah. And so because our economies are economies of extraction, that strait is also facilitates that extractive process. Yeah. And so if they are unable to extract from us even what little we get from the extraction is going to be reduced, right? Right? Even the peanuts, the peanuts will end.
Devastation,
right? There'll be no more peanuts.
The crumbs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So we have to bear that in mind too.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that when you have a strait like that, as we see with Hormuz, the nations that have interest in that strait are also have an interest in the defense of that strait in anticipation of events such as these.
Yeah.
But the entire security of Bab el-Mandeb is catered for on the other side of the water. Africa has little or no security influence over the entire strait.
Serious
right?
Point.
Right?
Serious
so
point.
so we're not even in a position to impose our interest, impose our will, even if we had the intention to do so. Yes, and that is a situation that is born of the entirely embedded nature of neocolonialism over the last 50 years, right? As far as Africa is concerned, and the fact that we have not pursued on the national level significant levels of self-determination politically and economically, and all of those who have attempted to do so have been taken out in one way or another. We are thoroughly unprepared, yes, to even protect ourselves when it comes to issues such as these, yeah. And we're seeing that right about now. And you see, if we had even a greater level of political, strategic, principled and operational unity, right? We would be able to take advantage of a conflict such as this and utilize it in our interest. This is the problem that the most forward-thinking and enlightened of our movements and our leaders that were birthed from said movements were trying to solve. Papa Garvey was mentioned earlier, or Sajid Kwame Nkrumah was mentioned earlier. And all of the work that they were trying to do can be summed up as it relates to issues such as these, is increase the political economic unity of Africa and African people, and privilege our relationships with each other over and above our relationships with other people. That means when we are attacked or other events in the world impact us, we have enough relationships among each other that we are able to utilize to withstand the greater excesses of said attacks. We are not in a position to do so. Why? Because very little intra-African trade takes place. Very little intra-Caribbean trade takes place. Yes, and we talk about the mealy-mouthed leaders on the African continent. The leaders in the Caribbean are just as mealy-mouthed. Yeah?
Even me,
The
even me,
president
and
of Venezuela.
Go on.
Say again.
Go on.
The president of Venezuela was kidnapped.
Mhm.
They've ramped up pressure and economic sanctions on Cuba, and the leaders in the Caribbean barely have a word to say about it. And
Yeah.
even the most even the most outspoken of them, namely Mia Motley, is very, very reserved, right, in her commentary. Yes, and there are those who suggest that behind the scenes she might have more to say. The point is that the region is so weak that even if she had the intention to do so, the environment doesn't exist for her to make that move. And I'm even questioning that.
Colombia. I think it's only Colombia is really.
No, I think Mexico apparently is sending a lot of aid.
I said a thing. I do believe Colombia has said a thing, but because they've had a recent change of leadership, and which is a bit more, I
heard that Mexico are actually sending aid directly to Cuba as well.
To Cuba, yeah. But again, I'm talking about the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm saying just for contrast.
No, absolutely, right. And so the issue that, and I'm saying this in relation to our dear sister Mia Motley, who everybody seems to love, because of the fact that we have to pay attention to the fact that when No, we should love her. She's an African woman, and there's nothing wrong with loving an African woman. The point is that when we fall in love with her politics and her political trajectory, we cannot do so without asking certain critical questions. I'm not saying that we shouldn't appreciate some of the state. Look, as far as Caribbean leaders in the Caribbean goes, yes, she has said more than almost any other leader has said for the last 40 years. The problem with that analysis is the bar for that is extremely low.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a very low bar.
Right? It's a very low bar, and the bar is not even ground level, it's subterranean.
Yeah.
As far as leaders in the Caribbean being able to speak up.
Right? Shaka, I hear that.
Sorry, go on.
I hear that, but then his situation, her speaking out strong and tough against America. What the consequences be? Barbados standing toe to toe with America?
Oh, yeah, we know that Barbados cannot stand toe to toe with America, especially by itself. Yeah, and so I'm not attempting to deny the realities of those situations. At the same time, when you look at an action as drastic as invading a nation that has a relationship with the Caribbean region, yes, which is Venezuela, and kidnapping its president. Yeah, and it wonders what more dire a time would there be to say something, right? Just what I'm saying. Yeah, so I'm not denying the realities, and again, I would appreciate very much if everything that I'm saying is incorrect, and behind the scenes, Mia Motley and whoever else is behind the scenes is moving hell and high water to address the situation. I'll be very glad and pleased to be proven wrong. But I'm saying that remember that she was among, and all of them were among the leaders that sat down with Anthony Blinken publicly and sanctioned.
Yes.
The US funded UN security support mission into Haiti. And I keep saying, despite America's recent criminality in Haiti, we're not talking about 100 years ago and 50 years ago. They have recent form in their criminality, and it wouldn't have been I don't think it's beyond the expectation of our leaders in government to be able to say, no, you are an illegitimate actor in at least this island. You have no credibility to act in Haiti based upon the fact that you have yet to even admit to your crimes in the last 20 years. Somebody has to be able to say
the last 400.
Right, exactly. And the fact of the matter is that the issue, because it can be suggested that the capacity to speak out on these issues is just about showboating, pomp and pageantry, giving a good speech and so on and so forth. And I've been thinking about this because we have to balance that the need for good policy and good strategy with the propaganda machinery and so on and so forth. And I'm saying that any leader who is going to challenge even in a minute way, the power of the United States of America in the region has to do so with the backing of the people. But you can't do that unless the people are being educated by a movement within the region that includes the leadership speaking out on certain issues. When the leadership speaks out, it is a form of political education.
Yeah.
When the leadership fail to speak out, it is also a form of political education. It is a subduing of the masses of the people, right? And I'm saying that this whole situation, everything that is going on in the world, it reveals how unprepared we are, even to speak up.
This is on to get to, because what's clear about the situation is that Iran has prepared for this war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For decades.
Yeah.
They said, look, here's what's going on globally. Here's where we are. Come, we can organize ourselves to do this. And I suppose the issue is at what stage, and well, you know where I'm going with this. Iran prepared for this war.
We're not prepared. But the question that you're asking me is one of the main things that brought me.
Anything.
Anything
serious.
But this was one of the major realizations that got me along this line in the first place anyway. Because remember, this is what you call an asymmetric war. Yes?
Yeah.
Which is to say that there is no parity between the military might of America and Iran on face value. It is agreed by every analyst.
Should have done already.
America, right, has the capacity to obliterate Iran and is doing damage to Iran. If we're talking strictly in military terms, but a war goes beyond just the military battle on the ground or in the air, and any student of war would be able to know this. And so I'm thinking, may I hear say no, Iran, I say no, the cheap missile them, where them can create 500 a month. Yes?
Yeah.
And they must save, right, and they must save the big guns. Yeah, and them just start release some new weaponry that them never used before. Yeah? And I'm saying, raw. Like when I even have the 500 missile ready,
we don't have drones, bro.
So, right? So I'm saying that the level of so, and this is why I also say that even with our rightful criticisms of Cuba and the race issue in Cuba. That we have been correctly judging Cuba on. When you look at a situation like Iran, when you look at a situation like Cuba, we also have to factor in another level of the analysis, which is how have they been able to withstand the onslaught against them in the context of an asymmetrical war. I heard a BBC analyst who was an Iraqi war veteran saying so many words that Iran are the masters of asymmetrical warfare. That nobody does asymmetrical warfare better than them. But this is all coming from the fact that Iran, based upon his level of analysis, is based upon their capacity to withstand and survive the onslaught of America. That the analysis suggests that a win for Iran is not necessarily defeating America militarily, but surviving America's military onslaught. Yes? And so all they have to do is to survive to win. And so they are focused on their survival capacity, and the regime has not been toppled, even though we haven't heard or seen from the new Ayatollah directly. Even the fact that they've been able to put out the propaganda that he's in place is a sign of the fact that the regime itself, the government itself, yes, has not been toppled.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the point that I'm making is that we as African people, there is study here for us. Yes. in terms of the geopolitics of asymmetrical warfare, and how because we are not going to match the military might of these nations anytime soon. Well, we have to prepare for the fact that whenever we get serious, and there are signs of this already in relation to the Sahel, that whenever we even look like we're going to get serious, they will be ready to attack us. Mm-hmm. And we have to we have to answer the question: how are we going to defend our people and our nations and the gains that we are making in the face of these attacks? We are very, very unready at this moment in time. To the extent that, look, I forgive me because I cannot remember where I saw this or who was speaking, or what platform it was on, but there was an Iranian official being questioned by some Western journalists, and the journalists asked the question concerning the extent to which Iran is worried about a possible ground invasion
I saw that.
from Israel or America. And the Iranian official said, no, we are waiting for them.
Yeah, bring it, come.
Yeah, we're waiting for them to come. Yes, he was basically rolling out the red carpet. Yes, for a U.S. and Israeli invasion. He said, we are weak upon them.
Sharpening
They're
the
not
sword,
ready.
bro. Sharpening the sword.
What made me laugh about that,
Right.
though? What made me laugh about that, though, Shakara, was actually the journalist was in this. Did you hear what I said? I said American ground troops.
With flummoxed, he couldn't understand. Yes, and he said because he said that they are not ready for what we have waiting for them if they choose to press that button. You know what I mean? And it just goes to show that we're just not ready. There is a significant amount that we need to do in terms of strengthening our own political resolve, our own even identity as a people, and defining our political interest and aligning our political interests with each other. Because even when you look at the different interests in this war, and you look at the African continent in particular, and you can almost divide up the African continent in terms of whose allegiance we are aligned with, as far as the actors in this war. Some of us are running behind the Gulf states and the UAE and them. Mm-hmm. Some of us, or elements of us in different nations, are aligned with Iran because Iran is Shia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not because Iran is revolutionary necessarily, but because Iran is Shia. Mm-hmm. Yes, and some of us are in bed with Israel, Rwanda being the number one in that case. Mm-hmm. Some of us are totally out of bed with Israel, but very much in bed with America. Yeah. South Africa being the prime case, right? in that regard. Yeah. Lick out against Israel because of Israel's relationship to the apartheid regime. Mm-hmm. Yes, the white supremacist colonial apartheid regime. But within the nation itself, the back of them in the nation itself still control over 80% of the economy in South Africa, in Tanzania, South Africa today. Yes, so there are all kinds of and then everywhere else, you know, America, Britain, and so on and so forth. You could almost divide up the African continent by our alignment with some of the various interests in this war, and that is the reason why we are unprepared.
Word.
How do we get prepared?
Because we haven't been able to align our interests. And so this is always going to affect us, because as Brother Leader was outlining earlier, the extent to which we are wrapped up in this global economic order, which has prescribed for us the position of neo-colony. And until we are able to make some serious inroads into remedying that situation, we will never be powerful enough to act in our own interest when these situations arise.
Right. Some would say that's a very bleak picture. How do we get prepared? What do we need to do? What process or steps do we need to take? Before we do that, though, let me just say, it's a bit late, but let's open the lines, though, sisters and brothers. If you want to call in, please do so. You can send in text as well. Send in text WhatsApp 07947 479 or call in on 07495 395 360 or 0203 576 1786. We've got a text, Brother Quacker.
Yes, from Kwame Boaje again, and he says here, Tenai Moari again, Brother Shakara Mandaka, my friend and colleague. Sister Mia Motley of Barbados is justified in refusing to get involved in the West-East conflict. When it comes to our African people, that's when it concerns me. Baba, Kwame and Nkrumah, when it came to the war on Vietnam, look what happened when these beasts went behind his back to oust him out of office. Baba Malcolm X condemned America over violence and gets others involved in the defense of her. King Kwame Obuaje.
Tenamai, give thanks and praise. Yeah, so lines open, sisters and brothers. 0203 576 1786 07495 395 360 or send a text, WhatsApp or Telegram to 07947 479 219. The Israel-Iran war. There you go.
But has there been any commentary from the Sahel states?
We've got a call coming in. Give thanks and praises. Caller ending 126. You're live on Africa Speaks. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Tanamai. My name is Brother Kwame, coming from North.
Yes, bro.
Tanamai to yourself, Brother Olatunji, Brother Kweku, and Elder Bandaka. Also writing to Shakira Bandaka. Had we listened to what Nkrumah had said more than 65 years ago, we wouldn't be the mess that we're in terms of trying to side with the West and whoever, because ultimately we shouldn't be taking sides to anyone. Nkrumah warned us about this. Had we listened to Nkrumah and had established the African Military High Command, we would be able to insulate ourselves from this kind of events that are taking place right now.
But Brother Kwame, you're right. You're absolutely right, but we didn't. So here's where we are. Where do we go?
So now, what we have to do then is not take any sides, but use this opportunity, right, to become, for example, in terms of the effects that will have on this, become energy secure, energy efficient. Because right now, like I said last strong, there's a power crisis in Azania right now. We can take advantage of this by being energy secure. Because right now, this conflict, which is not of our making, is directed impactly in terms of energy security. Yeah, and we need energy for industrialization. And on that, people need to go and get a YouTube video, right, by Dr. Howard Nicholas, professor of circuit economics at Rotterdam University. He let the cow out the pigeon, out the bag, when there's an agenda, a direct, specific agenda, to stop Africa from industrialization. The prime example is Nkrumah. Nkrumah had a 7-year development plan between 1962 and 1969. Nkrumah was halfway through that plan before he was overthrown in that coup of 24 February 1966. Had Nkrumah been allowed to finish that 7-year increment plan, it is said that Ghana would have been a middle-income country by 1970, and that would be the example for the rest of the motherland. I think Brother Leader was listening to it earlier when he said that Nkrumah was basically a student of, I'm paraphrasing him, a student of Garvey, who had the blueprint for the industrialization of the continent, and Nkrumah was just taking on what Garvey had set the template of. And so, had Nkrumah had been allowed to finish that program, that would have spurred on other African states who were looking at Nkrumah, looking to Ghana, and seeing how they too could develop. So Africa has been deliberately stopped by industrialization, because the West know that if Africa were ever to industrialize, that's game over. Because even Howard Nicholas said it right, that he said that if Africa were to industrialize, the quality of life in the West and Asia will collapse overnight, and they will not allow that to happen. This is why Nkrumah was taken out. This is why Sankara was taken out. This is why others were taken out, and this is why Ibn Chowe's life has been attempted more than 30 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, in closing, we have to come together as people. We have no choice. This opportunity enables us for nation building on a global context, not just in this country, but on a global context where we can link forces with our kith and king in the Caribbean, in the motherland, other parts of Europe, forge partnerships, right? But we don't understand the game. We don't understand how we can benefit, how we can take advantage of this tribal warfare, because at the end of the day, so-called Iranians are actually Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
They're not Asians, they're not Chinese, they're not Africans, they are Caucasians.
Mm.
Yeah? And it's just brothers having a war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? We need to take advantage of it by coming together, pluralism and unite. As instructed us.
Tanamari, give thanks for that, brother Kwame. Because one thing that's interesting is, in this age and all this talk and focus on renewable energy and green energy and all the rest of it, oil still run things significantly for the whole world. But, brother leader, so the issue is, what do we do to capitalize on that opportunity? How do we move it till we get energy sovereignty? Before we do that, though, let's just go to a message that's come in, brother Kweku.
Yeah, 462, he sent one. 462 says, Tenamara to all in the studio. We need some true leadership back home and in the West Indies that isn't afraid to fall on the sword for the sake of the people. Until then, nothing is going to change. Tatenda, ni teko.
Give thanks for that, ni teko. Let's go to Brother Shakara. So, Brother Shakara, so here's the situation. Theoretically, it's an opportunity now, but it's one that we're going to have to try and move quickly and deliberately with to make a benefit for us. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, tell them where. I mean, again, the operative term there is theoretically. Yeah. In theory, it should be that time, right? In practice, are we even currently constituted in a way that would allow us to work in that way, right? You know what I'm saying? And especially on a proper, like, critical mass Pan-African level. And the answer is no. There are some good attempts being made. The Alliance of the Sahel has been mentioned. Even some of the things that CARICOM is trying to do, is borrowing from the Pan-African playbook, so to speak. The problem is that there is not a significant enough, when Diomaye Faye was elected in Senegal. The slogan of the movement was la rupture, yes, the rupture, the separation from French neocolonialism. And there are debates about the extent to which they have, acted upon that at this moment in time. Well, the point I'm making is that there has not been a significant enough rupture, as far as we are concerned, from the neocolonial order to make those attempts as fruitful as they would need to be in order for us to really use this opportunity. Now, having said that, to count, son, you start from where you stand. So all of us that are doing the work have to continue doing the work. We have to watch the Alliance of the Sahel very closely. And as a diaspora, we have to begin to organize ourselves in such a way that we are able to make demands of these nations in our global African community, that whether they be Barbados or Haiti or Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Senegal, that are speaking to at least in some ways what we would like to envision in terms of Pan-African power. So I agree that it's not for us to dive in the middle of the fight and claim a side and fight on behalf of that side. And I'm saying that even with the understanding that there are Pan-Africanists out here who have relationships with the Iranian government. Yeah, not necessarily arrangements that I personally would be involved in, but I don't operate at those levels. The point I'm making is that one of the things that we have to do, though, is we must expose Euro-American imperialism. And we must use every opportunity to expose Euro-American imperialism. And because that is something that acts in our interest. It is not only when Euro-American imperialism is imposed upon African people that it becomes a relevant tool of propaganda war for African people. We must expose the fact and highlight the fact that what is taking place in Iran today is the result of the meddling of Britain and America in the nation of Iran as it relates to their oil, because they wanted their oil to work on behalf of themselves and their people, and the British and the Americans didn't want that to take place. We must expose that. We must expose the fact that when they talk about Hezbollah in Lebanon, that Hezbollah is the product of an Israeli invasion.
That's
yes.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Into Lebanon. It would have sprung up from nowhere. The people them invaded the nation, and a militia, an armed resistance group was created as a result of that invasion.
From the
We
Shia
don't
community.
have to.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have to become vassals of Iran and Hezbollah in order to make that analysis and understand that because this Euro-American Bakra imperialist network is the key card in terms of global dominance at the moment, any dent or explosion in their political, economic, or moral superiority is an investment for African people that we must be able to use in our own interest.
Right, give thanks for that. Let's go to the lines now. Give thanks, Elder Akram, for being so patient. We haven't got much time left, so let's hear. Can I have your contribution, please?
Yeah, one thing that the brother just said, and I 100% agree. You see, what happened is that when those countries became African countries and things became independent, one of the mistakes that they did was not coming to the Caribbean and the Americas to call us to come home. That was one of the biggest mistakes that they ever made. And even today, we're still not pushing hard enough for that to happen so that we can get the rights to return. Right? You know, so that is a very, very big problem. But at the same time, you know, Ibrahim Traore just gave a lecture to his children and to the adults there. And everybody needs to see that. And that is something that needs to be taught. Until that is taught to the African people, especially on the continent and even here, then, you know, and we understand that. Because you need to educate the people, because most of the people are not educated to what we're talking about. Right? And what Ibrahim Traore has done is like a school teacher, sitting and educating them. Whilst you're there dancing and drinking and everything, your country has been taken away from you. Spend time in understanding, right? This 9 to 5 and whatever, you know, you think that you get to drive in that car because somebody come 9 to 5? No, that person was having sleepless night, putting it together. And I'm going to make everything possible for anybody who wants to study and to develop, to come here and to do it, right? I'm going to put the things in place. You don't have to go to Europe and go to America, which is something I've been speaking about on this radio for the last 15 years. Don't have to do that. We can build our own New York, our own Paris, our own London, right there on the continent, you know? And then they need teachers. What we learned out here, we need to take it back home. Time that we spend time taking that knowledge home. That is what he's done. He's calling his people back home. Look, I'm making it possible for you all to come and do your research, whatever you need. You don't have to import chairs from anywhere. Make your own chairs. Make your own phones. Make everything.
Right. Okay. Give thanks for that, brother Akram. Got another caller on the line as well. Let's go to 819. This is going to be very quick because we come to the close of the show. 819, welcome to Africa Speaks. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Greetings, it's Uncle Sukem, Herakuti's son. I've been listening to the show, and on a positive note, what I'd like to say, what I've noticed from this is that what our takeaway, I think, really should be is to observe and to study how David is beating Goliath. Yeah, and realize that really it's not as the situation is not as bad as what we think it is. The reason being, technology is deflationary. So what that means is that weaponry, if we observe Iran, what they're doing, they're using guerrilla warfare, but in the digital realm, to be Goliath. You understand?
Yeah.
So we need to study these things.
Yeah.
And even within the education, it's also deflationary within that. Because in truth, you really don't really need to send your children to America or China to study. Because you can study how to be an astrophysicist online. So we need to study things like drone warfare, how to develop that technology, even do deals to get some of that technology from China. Because it's only gonna, that situation is gonna continue where things become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So what that does, that's gonna level the playing field within the warfare, which is one thing is what we need to do on the African continent. Our GDP, a big percentage of that should be spent on the military. Yeah? No, serious thing. Because you're going to have to back off these people.
Yeah.
Yeah? But it's not as futile as what we think if we look at it in that way. And we, as well as studying David, we also need to study Goliath. We need to study China.
Yeah.
Yeah? And we need to study also these people, what they call the Zionists. When we look at them, they are a minority on the planet.
Yeah.
So we need to study how are they able to control the planet as a minority. You understand? But they've sold everybody the idea that they are Goliath, but they are not Goliath.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, I hear you saying.
That's my main point.
No, give thanks for that. No, I think the point one made, and we had made a point before. There's things we need to study, but we have to have the mindset to want to study and learn from it and implement it. That's the issue, because there's a lot here we can study, but we have to want to.
That is a thing with them say.
Yeah.
Them say for every culture, with language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we have no pride within ourselves. Yeah. To realize, because the Iranians, they believe in themselves that they were that Persian Empire, and they're great. So they want to fight to the death.
Yeah.
Because they believe that they're great.
This is it.
But we are praying with our to the east, north, west, south, and whatever. And we in a wherever we in a. You understand?
They believe
due to the onslaught of colonialism, neo-colonialism, and all of those things. So we need to find a glue, because I think that is one of the main things that's holding us back, is that we're not together as a people. And that's been going on for thousands of years, not just now.
We have to learn that. A quick question before you go, my brother. So how are we getting on with the release of your father's works? What's going on there?
So that's still well, I'm working with my son because he's really the doing the technology part.
No problem.
Still. So
it's in train. That's what we need to know. We'll give thanks to Brady for that, my brother.
Man. And also, like say, rise up, brother, lead up, Mandaka, yourself, Olatunji, Shakara, and
Brother Kwame.
Well, rise up the brethren then.
Yeah, and rise up to you, my brother. Really delighted to have your call. But give thanks and praises. Right. We are...
All right,
Give thanks. Right, the close of the show. So really, Brother Shakra, a word, and Brother Leader, maybe 2 or 3 words. But that's going to have to be, I'm afraid, because we're really at the close of the show. And our brother, Dr. Aubrey, is here.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro.
No, I appreciate that. I missed most of the call, but I'm assuming based upon your last question that was the son of Baba Herakuti.
It was, yes.
So giving thanks for the ancestor, and we look forward to hearing the works. The point is well taken. In fact, I did have another analysis in terms of the fact that it also reveals the the ineptitude of the American government in terms of some of its folly in this war, and the fact that they are not Goliath, or maybe they are Goliath if we consider the fact that the moral of that story is that Goliath was in fact defeated. There is another element of this analysis that does need to take that into consideration. I am minded though to guard against complacency in that regard, that the only way to defeat Goliath is with serious work. And if we look at that story, there was some divine intervention involved in that defeat. So there's just some serious work to be done.
I would just like to say, half of the battle, I would even say 75% of the battle, is in the people, their mind. Remember when Muhammad Ali was fighting, the fight, when he was fighting,
the rope
he beat the people them with him mouth first, and then him come in and defeat them with him fist.
Yeah.
You understand?
Oh no, absolutely.
If the people them afraid, like you don't believe that it really can't happen.
Absolutely.
Then it's not gonna happen.
No, absolutely. I guess what I'm saying is that the years of training that it took for Muhammad Ali to be able to get to that point, the years of thinking and strategizing is what we need to engage in. That our body as a people is able to act in that kind of way, and I'm saying we have a long way to go to get to that point. But I know Rael-Iran needs to. I will leave it there.
I need to go.
We have to study all of these different elements and fractions of how to do what we have to do. Even
my brother,
I know the show is finishing.
Yeah,
but even when we say okay, then they're sending in militias, so we have to study how to defeat the militias.
Indeed.
What did what of these nations,
my brother,
David done, to defeat the militias? Okay, I know you're finishing.
Yeah, but I think the point is one made that we do need to study these things and apply them. Brother Leader, last word to you on the show.
Africa, the God of Africa be the glory. Honor and elevation to the spirit of Baba Herukuti.
Indeed. Every time.
Blessings to his son, and blessings to my son. I'm really, really inspired by the power of systems analysis that we've received from Shakara this evening.
Yeah.
Let me just say very quickly that we don't need a London or a Washington DC or a Paris in Africa. What we need to do is build our own Accra and our own Abuja and our own Kinshasa and our own Harare and Addis Ababa on the African continent. Finally, when we speak about energy sovereignty or food sovereignty or any kind of sovereignty, the sovereignty begins in the mind and the soul of the people. If we do not, beloved brothers and sisters, have that sovereign mind set and that sovereign spiritual orientation, there will be no sovereign economic system or sovereign political system or sovereign nation. I close with the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who says, unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Africa. Kudzai mudzimu mukuru, give praises unto our ancestors, for without our ancestors we would not be here today. Tendai Mwari.
Give thanks and praises. This has been Africa Speaks. Coming up next is the one and only Dr. Aubrey Yakub Oliver. Carry on the vibration into the morning. Around here we say, Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
America, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today,